This week I filmed the last of my footage, so for the opening of it. I filmed the streets of Norwich with like busy people walking by, and over the top of that I'm going to have my voiceover. I also, when I went to go and take pictures of my granddad for the newspaper advert, I decided to take some more footage of him, and I've decided that although it's not in my plan, it works really well as sort of like the opening to sort of introduce who he is. I've also planned my opening titles for the documentary as well. I'm going to include this photo, and over the top of that I'm going to have the name of the documentary, so Lost in Time, Living with Dementia, sort of fade out, and it's sort of going to move off the screen. It's going to be in black and white as well. Although black and white doesn't seem like an interesting colour, I've decided on black and white because the photo is black and white, and the beginning, so Lost in Time, is going to be black, and then the underneath part, Living with Dementia, is going to be white, so you've sort of got that old school feel to it. So it's like it matches with the photo, and it shows that it's sort of about an old man as well, because with it being black and white you sort of think of the past and things like that really. I've also been noticing some problems with my sound as well. Over the top of the interviews you can really hear like a muffle coming from the sound, and it's happening quite regularly throughout my documentary. So for that reason I have recorded a wild track for some parts of the documentary. So when my nan is outside, I put a wild track over it, and you can sort of hear the birds in the background, and it just makes it sound a bit more documentary-like really, and it's taken away some of those sort of tripod clunks where you can hear the sort of tripod in the background. For the sounds on the interviews where you can hear the sort of muffling in the background, I've tried to cover it up with the music that I've decided on. In my planning I picked 3 songs which I thought would work really well for my documentary. When I played them to some people, no one seemed to like any of them really. They sort of found that they didn't really fit what I was creating, and so I tried them with them, and I did see what they meant. So I kept looking, and I kept looking for another piece, and I have found a piece of music which I do really like, which I'm going to use for the radio trailer and the documentary, so they tie in together. And I feel that the piece of music that I've created really works well, and I'm not going to use it like just a track throughout the whole background. I'm going to put it in places where I think it fits, and to sort of provide more sort of dramatic impact really. This week I also started on my on-screen titles. So with my because I've now finished filming everything and I've put that all in, when my voiceover says fact, so 1 in so many people have dementia, I was going to have it as a split screen, so half of the screen would be the people walking in the streets, and then half was going to be the text on the screen. But I found another way to sort of do the split screen. I'm going to have it like this, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the text on the right hand screen in line with the box. I think it looks a lot neater with the footage not taking up half of the screen. It's just a little box, because I asked for feedback on that, and most people preferred the box to the full split screen. So that's what I'm going to go for, and then that's going to link into the titles, and then obviously it will all flow as the documentary. Today I finished my opening and the titles for my documentary. This is what they look like. After I'd done that, I asked for some feedback on how they were looking, and someone said to me that the titles, because originally I had the Lost in Time Living with Dementia bit on top in the centre of the screen, and it was covering my granddad's face, and when I asked for some feedback on that, I was told to maybe move it down a little bit because it was sort of covering the picture really, and you couldn't really get much from it or understand it very well. So I moved it down, and I'm really happy with how it looks now. I think that's done. I also slightly had the text for the on-screen fact. It was slightly out of line, so I've just lined that up a little bit neater now, and I've centralised it as well with the alignment, so it looks a bit neater, more compact, and it doesn't look as messy. This week I also darkened my outside shot a little bit with the brightness and contrast tool, because it just came from inside, and it was and the inside lighting is quite dark and a little bit, well, not dull, but it's not very bright coloured, it's quite dark, and then it went to outside and it was suddenly so bright that it was quite noticeable. So from my feedback I also darkened that shot a little bit just so it didn't stand out as much, and it just looked like it fitted in a bit better. With regards to my sound, I tried editing it in Sound Booth this week, and a program which is accompanied with Adobe Premiere, and it didn't really do much difference to the loud sort of muffles in the background. So I've just been spending a lot of time going through each clip and adjusting the levels of the sound to try and edit out those noises so they're not as noticeable, so it doesn't distract from the sound, from what's being said. It involved me sort of adjusting a lot of the clips as well. I've also been looking over my codes and conventions which I found out, and I've been adjusting my interviews as well. So when I have an interview, I've been sort of doing oral bridges for them. So I've been taking the first bit of the sound and putting it in the previous clip, and then having it lead on to the next shot so that it sort of runs smoothly and it all syncs together really nicely. Another thing that I've done is I've adjusted the ending, so I've put a fade on there, and I've also put a fade on the beginning as well. So where it ends, where it begins, I've done a gradual fade in where it matches with the music and it matches with the voiceover as well. This week I've been sort of touching up what I've done so far. So I had a spot at the end, right after my last interview and my last clip of in the hospital. There was an audio overlap between my uncle speaking and my nan and granddad in the hospital shot. So I just cleared that up a little and extended the audio and video of the interview, and then put it before the hospital shot so that it wasn't overlapping and you could clearly understand what was being said. I also adjusted the colour of some other shots as well, as I did previously, because they were slightly off colour. For example, the shot of when my mum is doing up the Velcro on my granddad's shoe, it was very bright and really sort of a cold blue colour, so I just darkened it a little bit to put a bit more warmth into it and to make it sort of correspond and relate to the other shots I've done as well. So I went through all of the shots, checking that their colour was perfectly sort of similar to each other's, and then I went and rechecked my audio again, and I'd done as much as I could editing sort of the sound, but then I tried again in Sound Booth to see if there was anything that we could do to it, and I went through each shot and deleted with the pen tool all of the sort of yellow areas, because all of the yellow areas inside the red sort of sound area were the sort of muffles that could be deleted. So I sort of penned around them and then deleted them, or lowered the sound of them to make sure that it fitted in with what was being spoken about and what other sound there was at the time. I also went and I selected the whole of the audio, and with the equalizer tool I adjusted it to a more accurate level. So I lowered it a little bit to make sure that it was sort of all at the same level, and to delete any high-pitched sort of whistles that there were in the background. By doing this, it did change how my interviewees spoke a little bit. It made them sort of sound a little bit robotic. So I just adjusted it again, and although they do sound a bit lower in tone of voice to how they did before, I think it sounds a lot clearer now that I've got rid of the muffles and sounds in the background, because they were very distracting before, and now that I've got rid of them and you can understand what's being said more, it sort of takes away that tone of voice anyway, so it's a lot clearer to understand. I also went through it and made sure that the music levels were all the same throughout, so at one point it's not louder, or at one point it's not quieter, because at the beginning my audio is very loud and then it gradually gets quieter as it sort of goes to the interviews. So I made sure that it was the same throughout, and it just sounds a lot more casual now, and it sounds as though it's a lot more sort of professional in the way that it's not changing so regularly, but it now sounds as though that's one track that's been placed in specific areas to where they should be. After asking for more feedback on my documentary, somebody said to me that the title for my brother's introduction on his first interview is slightly overlapping on his jumper. So the writing that I've chosen is black and his jumper's black. So what I've done is I've just adjusted it slightly so that the writing isn't overlapping on his jumper, so that it's a lot clearer. Although it was one letter and you could understand what it was reading, it's a lot clearer now, because the two colours aren't on top of each other, and you immediately notice what's being said.